What's going on, gang, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be teaching an FL user how to use Ableton. So we have one of our very own subscribers, AP, and AP even prepped a list of questions for us to go over. Isn't that awesome? So guys, please check the link below and give this guy some support. You can check out his music, and it's going to be linked in the description below. Please go over there and show him a little bit of love, because he got on a Zoom call with us and he showed us and he described the problems that he was having so that our FL users could learn Ableton even better. And if you're not an FL user, trust me, you're still going to want to watch this, because he asked a ton of really detailed questions on things that I haven't even discussed yet on this channel. So there is going to be value and gems for everybody involved. So without any further ado, let's get right into this. All right, yeah, so the plan that I had for this is to just go through the questions that you'd send me, and thank you for providing me with these, because these are really good subjects to touch on. And then from there, I figured we could like cook up a quick beat, and then you could just sit there and ask me questions along the whole way.
Okay.
So you have a little bit of experience in Ableton, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know enough to get by, and the one I sent you, I made in Ableton, so
Okay.
you had no issues except with just some leveling.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you've definitely been hitting those bangers home, that's for sure.
yeah.
So I guess when we start making a beat from scratch, as best as you can, try to pretend like it is your first day in Ableton or something. So try to like ask all the questions that you think anybody in FL might have, just so that we can get everything here on this video. But
Okay.
obviously, don't worry about it if you miss anything or anything. But
Okay.
okay, so let's start with these questions. Okay, so the first one is, how do you lay out your MIDI tracks and audio tracks in session view and then use arrangement view? And what is your personal method for doing this? Okay, this is great. So personally, for me, I know everybody does this a little bit different. Some people make it all in arrangement view, and then some people start in session view and then go into arrangement view. So that's how I like to work. I like to start in session view and get my arrangement or the layout for the beat down, and then I use arrangement view to just arrange it at the very end and then do my mixing and mastering and things like that. So what I do is I just set up all my MIDI tracks in here, and you could technically put like an audio track in here. So let's say I wanted to do this, and then if I picked out like a quick melody or something, I'll just pick something at random here, subscriber loops. So you could just do it like this, and then you could have it playing right here with everything. But that gets a little bit messy and it's kind of weird. So when I'm actually first getting the idea down, if I'm going to use an audio sample, what I actually do is I just set it up in the arrangement view first. So I'll go to the arrangement view and I'll put the melody down, because that's usually the first thing that I'm starting with. And then what I'll do is I'll turn on this right here. It looks like this is black on the top. Okay, that's better. So what I do is I like drag this little key thing here, because this is the looper. So I'll drag that to cover the part of sample that I want to play while I'm building my idea. And then I'm going to click on this loop button right here, so that it always loops this section. So, if it goes over, it'll just keep going back. So that's how I start with my audio tracks, just so I'm basically laying out my audio tracks in arrangement first, just because it's a little bit nicer way to do that. And like I showed before, if you're just sticking it in there, it can be a little bit weird, especially if you need to like match up the tempos, or you need to warp the track and move it around a little bit or anything like that. So I would do this for like melodies, maybe like drum loops or percussion loops or things like that. If you're using that, I would set it up in arrangement view first, and then I would go back and I would do all my MIDI in this view until I had my idea out. So as far as that goes, is there any other questions you have right away from that?
No, I think that explains it pretty well. Yeah, I mean, I assume you could do a lot of other things with that, arrange or the session view, to lay out different loops primarily. And then I see you building MIDIs in there, and then you could, obviously click the play button and it'll play all of them, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then you could just
So
kind of put it together that way. But yeah, arrangement makes more sense for arranging, obviously.
right.
Yeah.
So like, I watch some of the other big producers stream, like Kenny Beats, for example. He uses Ableton and he
Hmm.
does everything in arrangement view. So
Right.
arrangement view does give you some more flexibility because obviously if you're using like samples and stuff in here, you can go ahead and warp it, you can transpose it, you can make it
Hmm.
longer, shorter. But if you're making a MIDI out of it, you're more limited to what you can use in simpler and sampler, which are like the two sampling little things that you can use in Ableton. So it
Right.
does have its ups and downs, but yeah, this is just how I like to do it. And yeah, you said if you click play on everything. So really quick, I want to click play on all this stuff. So one thing you'll notice is when you have all these things playing, everything's going to be like grayed out. Like all the MIDI notes in here are going to be grayed out because it's constantly looping. So it's not actually going to be playing what's in here, right? Obviously, we have all the drums playing, but none of them are laid out.
Hmm.
So what you would want to do is click on this little button right here, and this is going to stop everything that's automatically playing, and it's only going to play what is in their arrangement view. So it's just this little button when it's orange right here. It kind of lets you know, it's almost like a little warning sign as well. Okay, let's see what the next question is. Whoops. Okay, so in FL Studio, you can select the MIDI notes and Alt U to chop it so you can make like 808 and hi-hat sweeps. Um, when you say sweeps, do you mean like,
Like the triplets, like
okay,
it's called chopper. So basically, what it does is it takes that long note, and then you select it. Alt U is the shortcut for there. And then
gotcha.
it will bring up a window that says how many chops, I guess, do you want it, and you could do a little slider, and it'll chop it like really fine, so you get that brrr,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
the triplets.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. Um, I'm not sure that Ableton has something similar. It very well could, but I can show you like the fastest ways that I would go about making a triplet.
Okay.
There's probably a way to do it. I've never heard of it or seen anyone use it, so I'm not very familiar with it. But let's say we were doing a hi-hat or something. You right click to make a grid or something, and let's say you want to put like a roll, and you turn on the triplet grid here, so we got like
Right.
132 in triplet. The fastest way for me is just to literally press duplicate a bunch of times on my keyboard.
Okay.
So that is Command D on Mac or Control D on Windows.
Okay.
That's like the fastest way I've seen to do it. But yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, there might be another way, but I'm not familiar with it. But this works
Okay.
pretty quickly just to like duplicate the note, you know what I mean? And if I wanted to duplicate this even further, I could like literally select that and then keep going, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So that's quick enough at least for my preference. So
Okay. Yeah, I was just
um
wondering if there's another way. And I think, you know what, just on a side note, after a few days went by, I did stumble upon a video where somebody said there's a feature in Max for Live.
oh, okay. And it does
If
that sort
you,
of thing.
yeah, if you go to, I
Cool.
don't know, because you have like the full thing, right? So if you go to Max for Live and then you click on packs or get Max for Live packs,
Yeah.
there's actually a feature in there that you download, and I believe it's free.
Okay.
But it's a tool. It's not like a sound or anything. It's that specific tool.
Gotcha. Do you happen to know what it's called?
I don't. I'll have to let me see.
Let's see, because I
Yeah,
have a
no.
bunch of packs in here. But that's totally fine. That's cool that there's an option out there. So if anybody
Yeah.
else out there is interested, definitely look into Max for Live. I think you have to have. I don't think you can get away with it with the free version of Ableton. You have to actually pay for Ableton to be able to get access to the Max for Live things. But yeah, there's so many free packs out there, and there's like free plugins and different things, different like creators have made and shared on there. So it's really awesome, and it's cool that they did that because yeah, like FL users might like really want to use that. So that's definitely something to look for if you're interested. That's great. And thank you for bringing that up too, because I had no idea. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, let's jump to the next one. When double clicking in a new MIDI track, the pattern defaults to loop. So when you drag it to make it longer, it just repeats the first section. Is there any way to have it off by default? That is another good question.
Yeah, that one stumps me. I still couldn't find anything. So if you go into your arrangement and then you have a Mac, right? So it's Command Shift T to make a new MIDI track. Double click on your to make a new thing.
Yeah.
And then in the bottom right, or sorry, bottom left, you'll see it says loop. No, it's a double click.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, wait, because you're in. Hold on, go back, and then yeah, there you go, and then double click on that,
Yep.
and then oh sorry, and then you see right there on the left side it says loop.
Yeah.
So is there a way to have that off by default? Because when you try to drag that out to lay out a pattern,
It'll
it
just keep
just it'll
overlapping.
just yes, exactly.
So maybe we take off linked here. If we press unlinked here, let's see if it'll work for us.
No, it's still
Nope. So
yeah.
let's go back. What if we click unloop? Will that work for us? That doesn't look like it wants to do that. So that's a very interesting question. Normally in Ableton, what we would do is just change the length here to 8
Okay.
or something like that. I don't even know what this unlinked region means. So what
That
happens if we
one,
turn off the loop too?
yeah, that one will fix it. See, but you have to do that every single time you put in a new thing. So if somebody prefers
Gotcha.
to lay out a track and arrangement view, um, yeah.
Okay, so I guess that would be how you do it. You just turn off this loop part, right?
But I was just wondering,
But you have to
curious if
do that
there's,
like every single time.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you'll have to double click into it and press that every time you're trying to do it. I think that's just how Ableton lays it up. I mean, there's a couple other ways you can make a MIDI file, because you could have it open forever, but you should technically have like what, a 4, 8, or 16 bars of something. So you should technically always know what you're going to make. So like if you want to do this, you could press a Control Shift M or Command Shift M, and it's automatically going to fill in that selected area, and it's
oh
going to
wow,
be that big.
Command Shift M. Okay,
So yeah, so if you wanted to make it like an unlimited MIDI, let's say, you could just like select your whole track like this and then press Command Shift M, and then you have
ah,
full range there now.
that's a good workaround actually.
That yeah,
Instead of
I use
unclicking.
that all the time to make
Okay,
MIDI. It's amazing. It's the way to go for sure.
cool.
And then yeah, using the length and positions and different things like that is also um, another way to get around that. So
Perfect.
okay, I'm gonna get rid of this really quick. Okay, let's see what the next one was.
This one's a little bit weird because it hasn't happened to me in the last couple of days. But
Okay.
when I'm going in and out of different projects to come back to them,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll either change a loop or something like that. And when I go in there, it doesn't automatically set the tempo. Now I can't remember if it's specific to changing out a loop or starting a new session, but
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes it just does not match up the tempo is weird. Like, or
Okay.
sometimes it won't even change the tempo automatically, even though warp is on.
Right.
So I don't
Yeah.
know
So
if
I'll
that's
show you
a
exactly why it's doing that.
okay.
But let me read the question out loud really quick. So it says you are having an issue with the warp mode when trying to automatically set the tempo after dragging in a new sample. Sometimes it's not accurate or it's way off, and I have to manually match the tempo. Is there any way to overcome this? So yeah, this happens to me all the time as well, and there is a way to overcome it. So hopefully the loops that you're using have the BPM on it. So let's say it is a melody or something like that. So okay, let me start like this. So if you have a melody or something and you know the tempo, you could obviously set it to that tempo, and then you don't even have to warp it. You can just drag it in. So if this melody is in 160 and I'm already at 160, I technically don't even have to warp it because it's already in 160. But if I pull in a sample that is 155 and I'm at 160, then you need to warp it. So let's say I pull in this one that's 140. What you would want to do is when you warp it, you want to match this to what the original was. So that we need to put this segment BPM back to 140. So
Okay.
that's the little trick I think that might be getting you caught up. Is because when you warp it, it warps it to the tempo that you're at, but you want to make sure that it's actually warped to what the sample is set at. So you want to put it back to 140. Because let's see, if I put this back to like 160 where it was at, and let's solo this really quick. I mean, you can obviously tell it's off, but let me get rid of this little bit of chunking right here. Yeah, so you can tell it's just way off, and we did just press warp. So if we set it to 140, okay, you might have to rewarp it again. Set it to 140 this time, because the sample's at 140. Now it should be in line.
Okay.
So yeah, that's definitely a problem that I stumbled across as well.
Okay.
So yeah, if you know what the BPM is, well, you do warp it, but then you also need to put the BPM to what the sample's actually at. And actually, if I just drag this in, let me see, without warping it, I'm just for a little test here, it might actually line up. Let's see. No, it doesn't. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So if you're not matching the actual tempo of the sample, then yeah, you got to go in, press that warp, and then match it to the original tempo of the sample. Otherwise, if you're using like a drum loop or something like that, you might have to go in there and manually warp it and do things like that. Okay, so when clicking on a sample in the left panel, it always tries to play in tempo with your track. Can I have this feature off by default? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so one of the really cool things about Ableton is that it matches the sample to your tempo automatically when you're in this browser. So I'm just curious as to, I'm not calling you out or trying to be weird or anything, but like, why is that useful to you? I'm just curious if there's something I might be missing.
Usually when I'm trying to select a sound
Yeah.
and I'll maybe want to switch up an 808 or even a kick, to have to wait for that, like it's usually a considerable amount of time before it tries to
It tries to
line
catch
it
it on
up.
the next beat. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So
Yep.
I'm sitting there and when I was in FL at least, it would just be instant. I'm sure there's a feature in there as well. I just don't never messed with it. Um,
Okay.
but when clicking through primarily single sounds like perks or even just a hi-hat or something like that, it would be super quick for me to just zip through them and see, okay, maybe which one sounds good instead of having to wait for it to, you know.
Okay, that makes 100% sense. Okay, yeah. See, that's why I had to ask you because I was like,
Mhm.
I couldn't think of why it would be useful. But now that you said that, it makes 100% sense. Okay, so what you can do is this is actually going to be a preference setting. So you're going to go into your live preferences and you're going to go to this record, warp, and launch here. And right at the bottom, it says tap tempo,
Oh,
start playback with tap tempo. Excuse me. So if you turn this off, it shouldn't play it at that tempo. Now, I don't know if it's gonna wait to play it on the next like beat. So let's test it out really quick because I'm actually
okay.
really curious about that. So we have this. Oh yeah, we got this soloed right now. So let's maybe I'll look for like a drum loop or something. Do I have any drum loops? All right, let's try that one out. Yeah, that played right away. Okay, yep. So that did do it.
Okay. Wow.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I wasn't sure if it was going to do it or not, but yeah, so you can play it at any time and it'll follow it. So we'll just do it a couple more times so that everybody can hear it good. I'm going to play it at a random spot.
Run it up.
We can go to
Fearless. Run it up.
So cool. Yeah, so I guess it was really that easy to set up. I mean, that's cool. So yeah, just in preferences here, just go to the record, warp, and launch, and it's going to be this tap tempo thing down here. So it's all up to your preference if you want to use that or not. But yeah, I like to use it just so that like I can tell what it would sound like when it is warped and things like that. But I can definitely see the reasons why you'd want to keep it the other way. So that's how you do that one.
So
Okay.
the last question about how to do something is record quantized shortcuts. So sometimes I'll use my MIDI controller. Not all the time. I have a cheap one, so I'll just do it for a claps or snare or hi-hats. So
Okay.
if you go into edit and then record quantization, you have to set that every time. So go to edit. No, you're in the right spot. Yeah. And then go to record quantization and then go to eighth note. So that's usually what you use, or at least what I use to have like a normal, you know, clap come in on the right spot.
Okay.
That's just from videos I've watched and it works. So it'll automatically quantize when I'm done recording, you know?
Yeah.
But when I
Yeah, I
start
know
up
what
a
you mean.
new, yeah, when I start up a new project, I have to click that every time.
Okay.
So I don't
So
know if you personally use something like that or
So I would recommend no quantization, and I'll tell you why. When you select no quantization, it'll quantize it to whatever you have set in your MIDI. So if I have this on eighth notes, it's going to quantize it to eighth notes. If I have this set
uh,
on 16 notes, it's going to quantize it to every 16 note. So when you put it on no quantization, you have the control over your fixed grid. So whatever
okay.
your fixed grid is set to, it'll quantize it to the closest sector in that fixed grid.
Okay, that
So
makes
that makes it a
sense.
lot easier. I guess let's cook up a beat really quick and then yeah, stop me along any of the way and I'll try to just explain things really well. So
Okay.
I'm going to try to find a sample that actually has its thing on it. Let's see. Actually tells you what scale it's in. All right, let's just drag something like this in here. So actually, let me listen to this. So yeah, let's speed this up. So it's at 130 right now. I'm thinking maybe like 140. So I'm going to warp this and make sure to set it back to 130. And let's make sure this is going to sound all right. Chop off this little. And I'm going to put this sync on here really quick. So I'm just going to highlight the first 8 bars of that and make sure that's looping. Cool. And then from there, this is where I jump to the session view and start to get the rest of the idea down. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the lows out of it. And you might actually want the lows for like the intro where the drums aren't playing. So I would just make like a duplicate of this and I'd put like, do something like that. And I would only like edit out the lows in this part right here. So that we still have the lows in the intro because that actually sounds really dope. And then I'm gonna EQ out the lows on this one. Let me grab this.
What shortcut was that to bring up that fab filter super quick?
So what I did is I copied and pasted it from one of my other tracks.
Oh, okay, so it was already
So
on there.
yeah, I just clicked on it, just copied and pasted it onto here.
Gotcha. Didn't even know you could do that.
Oh yeah, yep. You can pretty much copy and paste everything, which is amazing. So that's useful. And yeah, like my default template, I have like an EQ on every track. So it's when I make a new track, I kind of have to copy one over or refine it. But
Gotcha.
yeah, this is the quick way, obviously. Yeah, so I usually start with, the melody right around halfway in here. And then we can start jumping in and get the 808 going. So this is an E minor. Okay, that's why I wanted to pick a sample with it so I didn't have to like bring up scalar and do all that craziness. So makes it quick. So we'll go into scales, minor, E minor. Do you have MIDI scales already?
I think whatever came with your pack, but
Okay, yeah, so you'll have all of
yeah.
them then.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so they're all in here. So what I do is I'll just drag it out. I'll just throw it on the 808. The 808's usually like the only thing that you're going to need it for unless you're adding melodies on top of it. So, and then yeah, what I do is I click into it here and then I'll press Command A to select everything. And then I'll just move these back behind the starting line and then zoom in like that so that I know what notes I can play. Now,
Right.
if you wanted to get something more similar to like what you would do in FL, you might like take everything back here, stretch it all out like this.
Oh, the ghost notes.
Yeah, you could do so.
Yeah.
It's not as nice in Ableton, but this is how you would do it. So if you want to do something like that, let's say we'll just put it here. You want to select both of them. Actually, let's call this ghost. we'll just select both of these. And then I'm going to go down into here. And now you can see those notes are there. So if someone told me this in the comments actually, because I didn't know. So if you actually put on this little drawing stick, it won't overlap for you.
Oh,
so
wow.
when you turn on the pencil, you can actually go on these notes without it affecting it. So that's the shortcut to do it if you wanted to do it that way. You just make sure that pencil's on, otherwise it's going to keep doing that craziness. But, whoops. But I'm just used to doing it this way, so. And then I'm going to put this to 4. And this is just like the spins for my packer, like the 6, 7, 8, 08. My take on the spins, at least. Let's just make something really quick here. And like I could sit here and try to guess which notes it are, but something that actually really helps sometimes is putting the audio effect on here called tuner. Sometimes it'll cheat and let you see some of the notes, like some of the first notes I might be playing. So let's see.
Yeah, I always do that.
Looks like it's not going to work on this one, but that's totally fine. We got a G. It's not that helpful. But all right, we'll get the 808s down. We'll figure it out as we go. Let's just turn this down. Let's put this up to G.
Good question.
Yeah.
Is there a shortcut to turn the velocity up? Like, if you select all of them, you know, you have to go down and drag one of them and then lift it up. Is there a shortcut to scale those up and down all at once? Like a shortcut?
All right, guys, Future Fearless here. So I went in and decided to do a little research and figure out another way to do velocities like we were talking in the video. So what you can do is press Command A or Control A on Windows, and that will select all of these MIDI notes for you. The next thing you're going to want to do is if you're on Mac, you will hold down the Command key. Otherwise, if you're on Windows, you're going to be holding down the Control key. And what you're going to do is hold down that key, click on one of the notes, and either scroll up or down to change the velocities. So since I'm on Mac, I'm going to hold down the Command key. I'm going to click on one of these. You'll see this little arrow pop up here, and we can either go up with all the velocities or down with all the velocities. And this is a little bit of a quicker way than having to go down to the bottom. So if you guys want to use that, definitely check that out. Now let's get back to the rest of this episode. So let's see here. And then what I do with my kicks, at least lately, is I just follow the notes as long as they sound okay. So I'm probably going to pitch all these down 1 octave. Let's see. Hearing something in my head like right here. Make this 8 really quick because I don't want this double part right here playing all the time. So copy this over. And And I've just been playing like the snares and the open hi-hats by hand lately because it's fun to do, honestly. But let's go to like a hi-hat or something. So I also have that MIDI kit, which is free.
I already
And you
picked
can
it up.
find that in the description below this video. And that's what we're going to be using, just so I don't have to waste your guys' time making a whole hi-hat from scratch. I just have to figure out where I put it. Yeah, Fearless hi-hat MIDI. So these are like my 13 favorite MIDIs here. Just throw one in and see how it sounds. Use a different hi-hat. One other thing is I always turn this snap off because by default it's on and it'll actually shorten some of your samples. Obviously not the hi-hat because the hi-hat's very short in length. But like, for instance, like the snare or something, let's see if we turn. Yeah, you can see it cuts off a little bit right here, which some samples it's going to be fine for, others it won't be. So I just always make sure that that snap is off when I'm doing that. That's a big thing that I found out along the way. And I'm just going to put a little bit of random pan on here just by going into the controls. Just probably turn this up to like 15 or something. I forgot there's going to be a lag over the Zoom call, so maybe I won't do these by hand, but that's all right. We'll figure this out. I always like to put everything at 4 at the lowest. It's either going to be like 4, 8, or 16, but 4 is always the lowest I go with, just so when I put it in arrangement view, I don't have to like copy it 1,000 times. It just makes it a little bit easier, but that's just something I do. So when you're copying things over, another thing to take note of is when you're selecting something, it's literally where your mouse is at. So if I select from here backwards, it's going to take that whole chunk. But if I select it from here and then go backwards, it's gonna fuck it up. So you see, it's gonna put it in the wrong spots. So when you're selecting it and you want to copy it over, make sure to select the whole selection that you want to copy over. I want to select this whole bar so that it copies over each bar at the time. That's something I learned along the way too that was really useful. Not feeling it for this one. pick out a quick clap to layer with this. And then we can do like a quick leveling. Yeah, so I'm always trying to keep like, the main level, so where it's always at, like right around the halfway. So that seems to be about right. And I'll do pick an 808. Okay, then we can go to like start setting this up. And the easiest way to do it is to hold down the MIDI note with your mouse as if you're going to drag it somewhere, and keep it hold down and then press tab. And then you can drag it down from there. And then I'll just copy everything over like that. So I do that super quick. Oh, gotta go down a little farther. Snare. And open hi-hat. And while we're on the topic, you can access all of the same things in here from over here as well. So you can mess with your volume right here. You can mess with the panning on it. You can use your send and return tracks here if you want to do something like that. You can set your ins and outs if you're going to be recording, or if you're sending anything to it to record. And you can do all your like automations and stuff in here. So you have control over everything. It just looks a little bit different. And obviously when you're like going up and down with the volume on this, it's a little more like you got to spend a little more time with it versus if you actually have this, because it's a little easier to get the levels right once you're in this view, at least for my preference. But you have full access over everything in here. And yeah, like we showed before, everything's going to be grayed out now. So you'll have this little warning up here, and you just click that, and then you're only going to be hearing what's playing in the arrangement. So now I can turn off the loop, and then we can start making the rest of the beat. And let me listen to this melody really quick. Sounds good. That must be the bass. I'm good on the rest of that. So what I might do is bring this one. Actually, no, we'll just play this one again, and then we'll go back to this.
So that's control or command to drag it?
Oh yeah, thank you for asking that. To drag it over and copy it like that, I hold down Option on the Mac, and it would be Alt. It would be Alt on Windows. Okay. So yeah, hold down Option, and then you can just copy it over as many times as you want like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a super quick move. That's going to be really useful. Yeah, and then you go in here and you do your arrangement from there. All right, guys, so that wraps up the tutorial. I hope you guys like this one. And if you have any other questions about Ableton, leave them in the comments below, and I'm going to be getting back to you as soon as I can. Anyways, guys, make sure to go show some love to AP because he decided to get on a Zoom call with us. He took the time out of his day, he prepped questions, and he went totally out of his way to help our fellow FL users learn Ableton even better. The link is in the description below. Just go show him some love, give him a follow, listen to a couple of his beats. It's gonna mean the world to me and to him. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this, smash that like button. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new because we're uploading daily videos that you're not going to want to miss out on. And besides that, I'll be catching you guys again in the next one. Peace out.